Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Just there's still a few people joining the call. So bear with us while we carry on admitting people. But maybe if I introduce myself first. So I'm Stephen Thompson. I'm a fellow in the Participation, Impact and Social Change cluster at IDS. I've been I've been there for about 12 years now, so for some time, and I've held a number of roles while I've worked at IDS. Um, so hopefully I'll be able to share some of my experience, but also answer any questions you have. And I'm very lucky to be joined by two current students of IDS, Harshita and Majid, and also Rabab, who is an alum. And hopefully can share a little bit. So Rabab has already finished at IDS, and Harshita and Majid are there at the moment. Okay, so we've got kind of a diverse panel, and hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions that come up. The format for today, I'm going to give a short presentation, give you the kind of background information on IDS, and then I'll open it up to the colleagues who are currently studying and also those who have finished. And then, there'll be time as well for questions. So if I could just ask everyone if you're not speaking, if you could mute yourself, and maybe hold on to questions just during the presentation. There's going to be lots of time. So maybe if you just hold on with questions while I'm presenting and while the colleagues are speaking as well, and then we'll get on to questions and we'll try and do it. Raise your hand or put a question in the chat box. It's nice to see as well a few people are already putting where they're from in the chat box. Feel free to do that. You can put the country that you're from, where you're currently living, where you're working, where you previously studied, maybe. I don't know. It's just good to get a feel for who's in the room. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. So Rabab, when I share my screen, I don't think I can see anyone waiting in the so if you could carry on admitting people on that would be really helpful. Thank you. Okay, could someone just give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen? Okay, super. Thank you, Rabab. All right. So this is a picture of Brighton, just to get started. So the Institute of Development Studies is based on the University of Sussex campus, which is about two and a bit miles outside of the city of Brighton, which is located on the south coast of England. So we're right there is a pier with various amusements and so on. And then there's the cityscape in the background. So this is the kind of the geographical place where we're based. And as an institute, we're really focused on delivering world-class research, learning and teaching. And we're what stands us apart from other institutes perhaps is we have this strong drive to transform knowledge, look at action, develop leadership that's needed for a more equitable and sustainable world globally. So as you might have guessed from the name, the Institute of Development Studies, we're very, very focused on development, but of course we work across disciplines. So, in many ways, there's something for everyone. So we've been lucky enough to achieve the #1 ranking in the world for development studies with other colleagues at the University of Sussex for the last 6 years running. So while we recognise that rankings aren't everything, they are certainly important, and they do reflect the ongoing work of colleagues, not just at IDS, but also within the broader Sussex community. So it's something we're very, very proud of, and we work hard every year to try and maintain that status as the world's #1 development studies higher education place to be. And while the rankings look at different metrics, they work across the board. So there's various things that are taken into consideration, from teaching, citations, research produced, and so on. So this is, you know, our status as #1 is something we're really, really proud about, and something we're working hard to maintain. So we have a strong, so while we're based on the university campus, we have a separate identity, but we work really closely with a lot of people at the University of Sussex, and indeed the University of Sussex accredits our degrees. So within the library as well, so the University of Sussex has a very big cross-disciplinary library, and there is one particular part called the British Library of Development Studies. So there's a lot of historical documents there, as well as, you know, the new research and literature that's coming out on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis. So together with various colleagues in global studies and also the Centre for International Education, there is this really, really strong focus on development at Sussex. And that makes it a really nice place to be, and a really exciting place to be as well, because there's always something going on. There's always, you know, different presentations, different seminars, different discussions. So there's a lot of energy around development, which makes it a really a great place. If you're interested in development, it's the #1 place to be in the world. So in terms of entry requirements for our degrees, so we require anyone coming in has a first or upper second class. So sometimes that's called a 2-1 degree, undergraduate. And while there's no restriction on what you study, your degree has to be in a social science or a related subject. So there's you know there's the possibility for different people. So it might be that you're studying geography as an undergraduate, or it might be that you were looking at something else from a social science perspective. You know, there's a lot of different possibilities coming in. And in most cases, we encourage students to have had 1 or 2 years development related work experience. Okay, so you know, in most of our students come to do a master's having had a little bit of life experience, particularly in development. We find this just it you know, people come with a more rounded experience, rather than if they've gone straight from bachelor's and then straight into a master's. So for all our applicants, we require a 2-page personal statement. And in that, we're really looking for you to explain why you want to apply for the degree and how relevant your experience is. Okay, and when we say 1 to 2 years of development related work experience, that might be as a volunteer. It might be as sitting on a board for something, or perhaps setting up a community of practice or something like that. So, you know, there's the personal statement is really your opportunity as an applicant to show what it is you're going to bring and how you're going to approach your master's degree. So I know this is quite a busy slide, but I'll do my best to work you through it. So we have numerous postgraduate degrees on offer. So we have 9 master's degrees, one of which is the general one, so the Master's in Development Studies. And I should have said at the beginning, I'm a co-convenor on the Master's in Development Studies course. So I work with 2 colleagues there. So I know a little bit more about that one than the other courses. And then we also have 8 specialized courses. So MA Food and Development, MA Globalization, Business and Development, MSc Climate Change and Development Policy, MA Poverty and Development, MA Governance Development and Public Policy, MA Gender and Development. And then we also have a more practice and action orientated master's, which is the MA Power, Participation and Social Change. In addition, we also have an online themed master's, which is the MSc Social Development. And then, of course, we have a very vibrant PhD community, and we offer students or candidates, I should say, the chance to work towards a PhD either by undertaking research or by published works. And the PhD cohort very much part of the IDS Society. So, you know, they'll quite often help out with teaching, or they'll be involved in various seminars and of course social events as well. So it's a really nice setup, because you know, you have these interactions across the different courses, and including the PhD students as well. So regardless of the degree that you select or the degree you want to do, you'll interact with other people on other courses as well. I always say to my students that peer-to-peer learning is one of the real strengths of IDS. So you get people from all over the world coming, and of course, different walks of life, different pathways, different careers. And so learning from each other is a real value added that you get from coming to IDS. Okay. So one of the things people really want to know about when they're trying to make a decision for what master's degree is right for them is what we do about assessments. So it varies depending on the course you're on and also the modules you select. But in most cases, we assess by written term papers. So that's sometimes it's another word for an essay or an assignment. And most of these are somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 words. You'll get a lot of help and support in terms of developing your writing style. And we try and really, something we really pride ourselves on is that, when students come in, we try and build them up to the level where their academic writing is at master's level. But as well, we also recognize that writing isn't the only way of, it shouldn't be the only way to assess students. So we also have group presentations where you'll get to work with colleagues on a number of different issues. And the group presentations are a really good way of testing yourself for when you go out into the world of work and, replicating that kind of public speaking type undertaking. So the group presentations, they can cause some nerves, but at the same time, it's a really good way of testing yourself. And then finally, we also have dissertations. So a master's dissertation is 10,000 words long. And for most students coming in, that seems like an awful lot and quite daunting. But I can guarantee you now, but by the time you get around to doing your dissertation, in most cases, 10,000 words isn't enough, and you're, having to edit down. So don't be intimidated by that. The dissertation's a really, really good opportunity to get into, get stuck into a topic. You get to select the topic you want. For some people, that will involve collecting primary research. So you'll perhaps travel somewhere or work with an organization around a particular theme. For other people, they may prefer to do secondary research, so looking more at the desk-based side of things. So there's been plenty of really, really good quality dissertations which have been written from the comfort of your own home. So, it's as always with so much of the master's degree, it's what you make of it, and you can choose how you want to approach it. But of course, you'll be supported and supervised to make sure you're making the right decisions. But the dissertation's a really, really nice way of you controlling what it is you're looking at, what you're studying. We also, there's other bits and pieces we do in terms of takeaway papers, action research assignments, practical exercises, and group consultancy. So there is other formats. And really, when you select your modules, you'll be informed how they're assessed. And for some people, that determines which modules they pick. So as I was saying, there's an awful lot of academic support on hand at IDS. And I count myself very lucky to be working with such enthusiastic colleagues who really value education of others. And where we can, we try and spend as much time as possible with the students. So we've got a number of conveners. You'll be supervised both for your dissertation and term papers as well. And in terms of contact time, there's lectures, classes, seminars, workshops. And some of these are on a weekly basis. Others are on a more sporadic basis, and you'll be given notification when these are coming up. But we do participatory workshops. So we've got Robert Chambers pictured on the left there, Professor Robert Chambers, who is perhaps one of our most well-known and highly cited professors. So he really drove the participatory research agenda for a long time. And that's a legacy we're continuing at the moment. And we also offer things like Professional Skills Week, where you'll get skills, and it might be how to apply for jobs in development. It might be how to write a blog. There'll be a whole host of different skills that you can pick up from engaging with those sessions. And then we also have a specific research design module, which will help you to think about how you go about your dissertation. And we also offer Methods Week, where you can get stuck into various different methods, or perhaps give things a try if you're particularly interested in one or two methods. And then we also have core sessions for all master's students. And the idea here is to really strengthen those critical skills, so critical writing, critical reading of academic literature. And the idea behind those core sessions is really to work on the academic skills of every student. So every master's student who comes through our door leaves us up to a certain level. And whether they stay in academia or go off into the world of work, they've already got those skills under their belt as well as their degree. So in terms of facilities, the campus is based on the edge of a national park. So, there's lots of outdoor space if that's what you want to do. The university itself has numerous sporting facilities as well. We're not going to go too much into those today, but in terms of the facilities within the IDS, the Institute of Development Studies building, we have a purpose-built study space that includes quiet space, but as well group rooms. So you can do independent study or group study. And as I mentioned, we also have the British Library of Development Studies just next door in the Sussex Library. And the IDS building as well, we have numerous lecture theatres, meeting rooms. What else do we have? We have a manned reception, so there's people on hand, as well as a teaching office. So you're never on your own. And we're also lucky enough to have a cafe and a bar downstairs. So, there's plenty of options there in terms of food and refreshments as well. So our current students, at the moment, we have 243 master's students. 192 of those are within just IDS, and 51 are shared with the University of Sussex. And while these figures, I think, are for last year, we're still counting up for this year, but we have 56 nationalities represented. So, there's an awful lot, or there's people from so many different backgrounds. In many cases, it might be that there's people from the country that you're coming from as well. So, you won't be on your own from that point of view, but as well, you'll make new friends from most of the corners of the globe. And it's always a really nice thing at IDS that there's just such a mixture of people, and they come with different perspectives, different learnings, different experiences. That's something we can really build on. So that's really nice from that perspective. So at the participatory workshop held just last year as well, we had 30 countries represented, and there was 40 languages spoken as well. So language is something we're quite interested in, and while all of the courses are taught in English, we really value different perspectives and people coming from different backgrounds and different languages. So while the teaching side of things and the master's degrees obviously are very, very important, they're very closely linked to our broader vision and strategy. So as an institute, we're working towards a more equitable and sustainable world where people everywhere can live lives free from poverty and injustice. So this is the kind of underlying value which is driving us all. And we have a number of commitments, so upholding climate and environmental justice, reducing extreme inequalities, fostering health and fulfilling lives. Fostering healthy and fulfilling lives, and nurturing inclusive, democratic, and accountable societies. Okay, so this is all part of our strategy, and the teaching kind of fits in and speaks very nicely to our strategy. So our current strategy runs from 2020 to 2025. So for the next year, we'll still fall within that strategy. but these are the types of issues that we're working on more broadly. And of course, the teaching crosses over with that. And that's, again, one of the really positive things about being at IDS is we have this cutting edge research agenda, and the teaching is tied into that. So quite often the people who are teaching you are doing the research which you're being taught about. So one of the things we work really hard at, and one of the things that the students really embrace when they come, is that IDS isn't just another higher education institution. We very much see ourselves as a community, and we try and encourage and facilitate that kind of approach wherever we can. So, we're really interested in diversity, working across different communities, sectors, and perspectives. And we aim to do research that engages with different scientific disciplines, to build future leadership for development and prioritize social justice, and to work collaboratively with partners around the world. So again, another really strong feature of IDS is our approach to partnerships. We have many hundreds of partners in different countries, and partners from a whole range of different backgrounds, whether it's civil society organizations, universities, NGOs, so non-government organizations, in some cases governments, activists. There's partners from all different walks of life, and that we very much see it that we are stronger than the sum of our parts. So when we're working with these different partners, we learn from them and they learn from us, and it's very much seen as a collaborative effort, and that builds into that strong IDS community. So the picture on the left, we have a bulletin within IDS called the IDS. Sorry, we have a journal within IDS which is called the IDS Bulletin, and this is an example of one of the issues from 2016. So we do several of these issues a year, and this was one of the questions that this particular bulletin was engaging with. So the focus is around engaged excellence, but who defines good quality research? Who, how, and with whom should we construct knowledge? How do we build enduring partnerships? So these are just some of the questions that we try and answer through this engaged excellence approach that we take. So just a little bit. So while, I don't want to dwell too much on past students when we've got current students, and we're lucky enough to have an alum with us as well, but, we have a range of students who have gone on to do amazing things. So some of you may have heard of Isatou Toure, who was the vice president of the Gambia. And she said, IDS creates leaders and shapes the world development agenda. IDS has contributed to what I am today, and I am proud to be a product of this great and reputable institution. So really nice to hear from her about that. But we also, have a range of people who have gone on to some quite incredible things, and I'd like to think that they take with them not only the degree and of course the qualification that they've achieved, but also something about our way of working, something about our ethos, and just valuing that partnership, valuing a diverse perspectives and diverse ways of knowing. So, just to pick out a few there, we've got Carlos Quesada, who is the president of Costa Rica. We also had someone who went on to be the CEO of Save the Children in India. Also a Greek Minister of Finance. We've got someone who worked at the World Trade Organization, ambassadors, representatives, you name it. Our students go on to do it. And I've just put we've just got a few up there now, just in terms of where people go on to work. So, it really is a range. Some people stay in academia and go on to work at other universities, or perhaps stay at IDS to study, to research. Other people work for non-government organizations. Some people work for governments, but staying in that development field. Some people go back to kind of grassroots civil society organizations and really drive the agenda there. So it really, really does depend where you want to go with your career and development. But I would say that a degree from IDS is a very good stepping stone for whatever it is, wherever you see your career going. And it might be that you don't know yet, and that's totally fine as well. Some people come to IDS thinking that they want to work in policy, and they go away saying, no, I really want to work in gender. That's something I have a real interest in. So, it might be that your journey through IDS helps you decide where you want to go in your development journey. Okay, so I've put up, there's a load of quotes here from previous students, but I think seeing as we've got some real life students, I think I'm going to stop sharing. I think it would be far more engaging to hear from current students rather than reading about former students. So who would like to go first? Majid, is that okay?
Yeah, I can go. Hi everyone, my name is Majid and I belong to Kashmir. And before coming to IDS, I'll give you a brief background what I did. I used to work with NGOs across India. I did that for 4 years, and then I started applying to different universities around the world, looking for what's the best. And finally, I got accepted at IDS, and that was something really amazing. And we've been here, it's been almost 2 months now, but it has been really, really grateful experience being in the IDS and meeting so many people from across the world. And that's something that really makes it a better place, because you get perspective of students from almost every part of the world, not every country, but definitely from across the continents. And also the faculty is also very diverse, so you don't just get one perspective, you also have different perspectives over there as well. And the people who are in your class or while in IDS. So I do the MA Development Studies as the general course, and the people that I interact with on daily basis, that's kind of where a lot of learning takes place, because those people have, some of them have already worked in development space for decades, or some are quite new, and even some freshers. So there is always this learning process going on during your classes or at the IDS bar is one of the places where we most of the times hang out. They have a nice coffee, and also the place overall is very warm, it's welcoming. Like, you, when I was coming to IDS, I had this thing in my head that, oh, it's my first time abroad, I don't know how I'm gonna do there at IDS. But when I landed here, when I started going to school, it was really good. Like, the people, the staff, faculty, everybody is welcoming. They already know what you're going through, so they make sure you feel welcome wherever you go, whatever you want to do. And there is always support in all forms, like doing your assignments or any other help you need with assignments, or you're not able to figure out some things with readings or writings. So there's abundant support there, and it's made sure that you get some of it. And also, apart from our academics, we also have a lot of development practitioners coming from across the world, who have decades of experience in the international development. And hearing to these personalities also is really helpful, and something I always look out for. And I keep going to those workshops or lectures. And also, Harshita and me were in one of the leadership courses as well. So that was a highlight so far. So it was arranged by IDS, and we were able to be in there. And it kind of opened us to the whole international leadership. How can we build better teams or be better at our workplaces, and envision a great future. And yeah, and finally, I think apart from academics and all networks, we also have a very nice community in IDS overall. I can say that because we already celebrated Diwali. We also had just yesterday we had a Christmas day where everybody gets together. You sing, some people drink, and you dance. That's pretty good. And people from Latin America, if some people are here from Latin America, we also had Day of Dead, so that was something new for me, and that was a nice experience for me. So yeah, I think I have a lot to say, obviously, but I think I'll keep it short and pass on to Harshita. She might have something to add. But thank you.
Thank you, Majid. So I'm Harshita. I'm doing the MA Gender and Development program at IDS. And just a brief about me, I am from India. Before coming to IDS, I was working for a couple of years in research consultancy space in India. And this was my second master's program. So there might be some of you who are thinking of doing a second master's. And just in terms of that experience, I think it has been pretty much interesting and sort of what I was expecting out of the course. But I think I'll just go about things a little bit of structure. So I think my first impression about the space was that how diverse, warm, and welcoming and culturally vibrant the IDS community itself is. I just noticed that the chat box had a bunch of folks from a lot of different countries, and that is more or less a representation of what your class constitutes like on an everyday basis. And the advantage of that, as Majid was saying, that you get a diverse set of perspectives from around the globe, but also because a lot of people come in different life cycles of their professional journey at IDS. There are people like me who come with, let's say, a couple of years of experience, but a lot of folks who come with a decade or two of experience under their belt. And so the sort of learning range that creates for you, it's very exciting to be a part of that ecosystem, because class conversations and peer-to-peer learning do open a lot of new planes of thinking about the world beyond the kind of perspectives we come from. I think what's like the study at IDS, what excites me and makes me most, you know, immersed in the experience is how non-hierarchical the ecosystem is. And because it's so non-hierarchical, the spaces for communication and discussions are very inviting spaces, but also allow you to there is necessarily no pressure to always be right and have the right set of answers. Uh, and that opens actually spaces for learning that generally I did not have back in my home country, just because how structured thinking is sort of advocated in that way, like the IDS ecosystem was a new plane of interaction for me. But also, secondly, I think as Majid and Stephen mentioned, we do have a lot of experts teaching courses over here, and there is a diversity of who teaches you throughout your course curriculum. To give you a perspective in how MA Gender and Development is structured, we have a bit of balance between a practitioner and academic focused perspective. So you have two modules in the first term. One of them is a very academically rigorous paper. The other one is a very hands-on policy and development paper that's kind of designed. And throughout those two papers, you get to meet a lot of IDS fellows who are working across a range of fields. So there's both breadth and depth of learning that takes place, but also the seminars are designed to give you a very hands-on experience in, let's say, policy designing, for example. So I think it sort of stalls for both of those purposes when you think about the master's program in terms of what you are trying to gain, whether that's a purely academic experience or a purely practitioner one. I think there is enough for everyone at the end of the day. It's also the fact that the dissertation may seem daunting, 10,000 word assignment at this point, but there's a lot of guidance and you're incrementally built up to it. So even the term papers that you see, they come with one-on-one professor guidance. So that's also a helpful way to build that competence eventually for a dissertation. So ultimately, it does not remain as daunting as it might look right now, perhaps. Also, I think it would be a good idea to explore prior to, sort of thinking about ideas is what interests you personally. During my application, I was very interested about women's economic participation and the care economy. So Professor Deepta Chopra's work was very exciting for me. So perhaps exploring which fellows' work excite you and looking into module options, etc., can be a good way of finding where your necessary niche lies, perhaps. I think that's more about the academic side of things, but beyond that, also, it's a vibrant and nice community to be in. Sussex, as Stephen said, is right within the national park. So some mornings when I wake up and just step out of my hostel, there will be cattle grazing around on the Sussex Downs lower hill. So it's sometimes a very beautiful sight to sort of see. So it's a very beautiful place, and Brighton City is just half an hour away. So on sunny days, it's a lovely walk out. Yeah, I think that's about it from my side. Do you want to join in, Rabab?
Hi, everybody. So my name is Rabab. I am from Pakistan, and I recently completed the MA Poverty and Development course, which I will say is the best course. I always say this. And I'm just going to try to also answer some of the questions that I've been seeing in the chat. I will start off by saying that I joined IDS after 8 years I had an 8-year gap between my undergrad and IDS, and I had some of those doubts that I see in the chat, which was, am I going to be able to engage with people? Because, am I past my prime? When it comes to studying, you're never past your prime when it comes to studying. Also, I sort of had my own doubts and things. When I look back at the last year, I think this has been one of the best experiences of my life. And I'm not saying this just because. Stephen was actually one of my tutors, and I had the best, like when I say the seminars are a space, so someone talking about different perspectives and, having conversations, that is the space to do it. And if you're lucky to have a tutor like Stephen, they're also very well moderated. I sort of came in, I had an academic background in my undergrad in marketing. And by the 4th year, I had sort of, started having doubts about, I did want to do this. So I started exploring the development sector in Pakistan, and I was part of this fellowship called Teach for Pakistan. And I'm sure they have like multiple fellowships across the world. It's part of the Teach for All network. And that's how I got into it. And I largely looked into rural, basically looking into rural livelihoods. And I came into IDS thinking, this is what I want to focus on. And I took this one course called Development in Cities, and it completely changed how I started looking at things. And I have to, really give a shout out to my lecturers, because they got me interested in understanding, urban, some of the things that I didn't explore back home. And that's what I did my dissertation in. And yeah, it got me more interested. I also came into IDS wanting to learn more about, so I didn't have like a background in development theory. And that's what that's what I came in wanting to do, especially because a lot of the projects that I did back home were aligned to a poverty reduction program in Pakistan, and which is why I did poverty and development. And yeah, it opened my understanding into a lot of things that I did not particularly look into. I did my dissertation, I completely flipped. I did my dissertation on urban displacement, which was something that I had never really planned to do because of the way that my lecturers taught me, and it got me interested enough to, go back home, do primary research, join one of the movements that are actually, sort of resisting it. So that is the kind of impact that I've had with IDS. It's made me question. I've always grown up questioning things, but I think you also need to learn how to sort of, learn how to look where to look. And I think that was something that I truly sort of started embracing here. And I will say one of the things that, and I will echo both Majid and Harshita when I say this, your lecturers and your tutors, when I talk about the people in that building, the IDS building, because most of the classes do happen in that, they're very approachable. I've had some of the best conversations with my lecturers, with my tutors. I see a lot of some of those things about, supervisors and things. Yes, I know that my supervisors have sort of given me the kind of direction I need, and they've done it in a way that is very kind and approachable, because often I at least went in being like, oh, I was a little intimidated because I was like, I don't know anything about this and they know everything about this. So never once did I come out of the room feeling like, oh, it just felt so good coming out of the room, because you just walked away knowing more. so yeah, I mean, yeah, I was, and we have this study space, which is where a lot of those conversations are happening. That's the space where you sort of also make a lot of friends, but that's also a space where you get to learn more about people, because, you know, it's conversations about things that you had a completely different opinion on, and that conversation did have an impact on it. So I've made some of the best friends that, you know, some of the best people that I've met are in that space, but also some of the lecturers. And I come from Karachi, and I was very lucky to have sort of representation from Karachi, and sort of understanding. I sort of had a chance to look at my city in a way that is more focused, I think, because you sort of live in a city, you start, you know, you get, certainly there's a thing where you sort of separate yourself. But yeah, so yeah, I just had the best time. And I mean, I would go back, even assignments and everything. Yes, they seem daunting. I'm guessing you guys have already done one round, like I think like the first sort of assignments. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, those are not, I mean, yeah. And I miss the discussions, I miss the classes. It was such a great experience.
Super, thank you. And I should say as well, I learned a lot from Rabab as well. So it's very much a two-way learning process. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got about 20 minutes. I know there's an awful lot of questions being put in the chat box. And I would say, you know, while we're doing our best to reply to everyone, if you don't get the reply you need, please do reach out to the teaching office or someone within admissions at IDS, and they'll get back to you. It might be that we don't know the answer if it's a, you know, if it's a very specific question, but we'll do our best. But please don't feel we're ignoring you if we haven't got round to your question yet. There's an awful lot of questions appearing there. So would anyone like to raise their hand, and if you can turn your camera on, that would be helpful, just so we can see you. Would anyone like to ask any questions? It could be anything. It can be to do with the courses. It could be to do with the environment. It could be to do with the city. Okay, so we've got, is it, you have to forgive me if I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, but is it Asahai?
Yeah, Asahi.
Please
Yeah,
go ahead.
thanks for explaining the faculty, but as you mentioned, you need a work experiences which is related to the development studies, and so which means, so like, is it impossible to go to the master's degree without any work experiences from bachelor's degree? Because I'm university student, so I'm gonna apply for the master's degree in a Sussex University, but actually I don't have any work experience, so I'm curious about it.
Yeah, it's a good question. So in most cases, we ask for candidates to have experience, and that in many ways it helps give that it helps to broaden the experience that the students come with. I wouldn't say it's entirely, you know, it might be the case that you have other experiences to bring. So say, for example, you may have been involved in a student movement, or you may have volunteered for an organization or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, formal work for an NGO or something like that. So it might be that you're able to think about your experience, you know, and present it in a way that shows that you have broader experience, rather than, you know, just 3 years in a degree and then you've kind of moved on from there. So we found that by including that requirement, it just helps for the students who are incoming to have a bit of real world experience. And of course, while development theory is really important, the practical application is equally as important and will vary depending on country, context, time, and so on. So while we ask for the experience as a requirement, it might be that you're able to think a bit more creatively about some of the experience you've got and see whether or not you think that might be suitable to include in your application.
Okay, so okay, I get it. Like, does it include like internships or volunteer activity?
Yeah. So it could be volunteering, could be internships, it could be something, you know, maybe you've organized something in your village back home, like a village organization or something like that. You know, there's no, we don't limit the what we consider you know, valid experience.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, we've got quite a few now. I didn't see who was going to go first, so I'm just gonna
Anna next, I think.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm Hannah from China. I just have one quick question about the not related to the course and applications, but I just really interested in. So, is this the school far away from London? How often do you guys go to London? Because I search it's not very far away.
So maybe if I tell you the geography and then the others can come in and say whether how often they've been, but so it's about an hour and a bit on the train from London. Or there's also National Express buses. So people can and do go up for the day. You know, it's close enough to be able to do that. But colleagues, I don't know if you want to say how many times did you go to London, Rabab?
Not much, to be honest. I came from like a big city, so I just wanted to sort of be in my little bubble, and Brighton was amazing for that. You have the beach, you have the parks, so you get like a good terrain. I'd say, yeah, I'd go like once in 2 months, and it's very accessible if you have, especially if you have a rail card, it also gets slightly cheaper. But yeah, I love Brighton and how tiny, like it just feels less intimidating.
I see. Thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Rasid, would you like to go next?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Rashid and I'm from Indonesia. Following my previous questions about development studies, perspectives. So I work in a ministry and I saw that the commitment for IDS is upholding climate and environmental justice. And what I found is that in my institution, what we work is that somehow we built an urban area inside of forest. So is that perspective going to lower my the expectation from the IDS?
I'd say I don't think I'd like to think we don't come with a kind of set definition in our heads of what development is, and in many cases it's defined by the people who are experiencing it or practicing it. So I don't think that would put you at a disadvantage. I would say, you know, we have numerous students come in who have been civil servants, and some of them are still civil servants, and you know they're just on a year's study break. And quite often they can bring those experience into the classes. Seminars, you'll be asked to kind of give examples of where things have gone well, or perhaps things haven't gone well or could be better. So I would say that would be very relevant experience, and you know, it wouldn't be held against you for, you know, working in development in one sense as opposed to development in perhaps a different sense.
Thank you for the answer.
Okay. So I'm just gonna call people how they're appearing on my screen. Apologies if it's the wrong order, but I can't think of another way of doing it. So should we go for Lucy, please?
Okay, hi everyone. I don't think I'm in a very suitable place to turn on my video, but thank you for this session. I am from Ethiopia and I am interested in applying for the Masters in Globalization, Business and Development. And I've applied for fundings from the Chevening, so I'll be applying for the for the masters in the coming few weeks. So looking forward to that. So I just want to ask, maybe from the students at IDS now, if they could give us, some tips on how to really write a good personal statement to really stand out from many applicants. Thank you so much.
Harshita or Majid, any advice?
So I just think I'll just share how my personal statement was designed. I think a personal statement is not like a one-off project. You will keep on reiterating and coming back to it. So don't be afraid to start typing or writing, irrespective of whatever sort of you're thinking at this point. Putting it all down to paper is a very good starting point, whatever the clutter looks like to you right now. So that's one step. The other thing I would say is that you already come with a lot of experiences, whether that are personal or professional, that shape who you are right now as a person. And so tapping into them and thinking by IDS is the right next step for you is something that helped me figure it out. So that's also a good way for you to prospectively think that how are you going to filter out between competing offers. When you're applying to universities, it's like that you'll apply to a bunch of them. And the only way that you can be certain that a place is a good fit is also to introspect that which of your experiences and values that shape you, who you are as a person, are congruent with the institution that you're sort of applying to. And a third thing would be to just think about what is the problem statement that you want to sort of solve out of this experience. So for me, that was gaining a kind of certain specialization within academia, but also trying to see what could be new perspectives to engage with the gender and development space. And what is that particular problem that sort of excites me? For me, that was, let's say, women's economic empowerment. And for you, it could be very unique to your circumstances and your position. So I think that would be some thoughts on it. Majid, do you want to jump in?
I think I'll also draw from my personal experience. And I have a computer science background in my undergrad. And then I continued working for 4 or 5 years in development sector doing different things. And then I think that's how what I do in my SOPs or my personal statements. I just draw from my experience and why I think I was a bit clear about why I want to do the masters, even though I didn't have an undergrad in that. So it'll be really, I think, one thing, because I applied for a lot of scholarships as well, and then I got one as well. So I think I trying to be really clear and just stating why you want to do the masters. That's one thing that really that makes your application stand out. I think that'll be one tip from me.
Thank you. Great. So next, shall we go to Ifiba, SEN?
Hello. Please, I'm Priscilla Isiam. I'm from Ghana.
Apologies, your name's different on your Zoom account, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, that's
Sorry,
not my
apologies.
official name. Okay, my official name is Priscilla Isiam. Sorry for the noise in the background. I'm in the market right now. Please, my problem is I applied I think 2018, last 5 years, but I couldn't finish with the application, and I'm trying to apply again, but it seems it has my old information and I'm not able to edit and reapply for this year. It keeps showing my old application. So that's the problem I have right now. So I'm unable to apply, and I want to apply for the
Okay, yeah, that sounds like quite a technical issue. Would it be possible for you to email one of the colleagues working in the teaching office, and hopefully they'll be able to help? It sounds like there's some kind of a technical problem there. I'm afraid I won't be able to advise anything there other than getting in touch with the central administration system. Okay. So please do try and get in touch with the central team, and they should be able to help. Okay, Paul, could we move on to you, please? Thank you for waiting.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot. Yeah, so my name is Paul. I'm currently a teaching assistant at the University of Zambia in the Department of Development Studies. My undergrad is development studies itself as my major, the minor in sociology. So one thing I want to ask is specifically on the scholarships that exist at IDS, if you're running your own scholarship programs. And then the second question is on how you interpret the grading system, because for us at UNZA we use GPA, where we calculate grades from first to fourth year. And then I don't really understand when the European universities, they say 2-1, the UK universities, I don't fully get it. So to understand a GPA of 3.5, 3.6, 4.0, yeah. So how do you get that?
Yeah. Okay. While I am familiar with Zambia, I'm not familiar with the grading system. But so in most cases, the requirements for a upper or second class or upper second class degree. So that would be 60% upwards or 70% upwards in the UK model. But if you're not sure, it might be that someone within your university might be able to advise what the equivalent is. But perhaps maybe if you again, not just wanting to defer to my colleagues in the teaching office, but if you email them, they might be able to give you a bit more advice about how what the translated grades might be, because I know there's different systems in different countries. I also, with the scholarships, it's something I'm not 100% sure about myself, but I know every year there is some graduate scholarships which are specifically for high achieving scholars from the global south or from less economically developed countries. I don't have the details of those on hand, but I would say keep an eye on the IDS website, and that's a good place where any news about scholarship opportunities will be uploaded. And there's a range of other, quite often people avail of scholarships as well, which they don't go through IDS to get them, but IDS as a higher education provider in many cases can be somewhere where you can avail of other scholarships for. Okay, but Paul,
okay, thank you.
Stephen, can I just add to that, if that's all right?
Please do.
I do see a lot of questions around funding and things. If you are someone who is wanting to secure funding, please apply earlier, because as you get up closer to the start date, there's a higher volume of applications. So the turnaround time for you to get back on an offer is often longer. So just to give you an idea, I applied, I think, the first week of December, and I got an offer around like sometime after Christmas break ended. And again, also understand that in the UK, there's also an Easter break where generally applications are not being processed. And any sort of funding, I would say this is the best window to apply for it. So I know that this evening's already done. You have the Commonwealth Shared Scholarships, and I know that some of the courses within the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship are from the IDS. You have multiple funding opportunities. There is a link. I will try to link it in the chat. So all the scholarships that are there are generally listed, but they keep on changing. So please keep on looking at it. Again, if you are someone who's looking to secure funding, please do research, because things do change. Certain requirements change. So Majid and I are both IDS graduate scholars. We had a certain way of a process, but it might have changed this year. So please just don't rely on what is being said here. Please do your research. And also, I know that there are certain requirements that the scholarship might ask. get those things in order so that when the actual time comes, you're not sort of scrounging around, and you can actually work on your personal statement that does have a massive, you know, sort of like weight on you securing the funding. And yeah, there are multiple groups online that generally talk about scholarships and funding. Be proactive if that's something that is, if funding is a barrier for you in you attending this course. I can tell you that based on what I wanted to get a fully funded scholarship. I'd applied for 8 years, and I then got the IDS scholarship, but it was I was always on the top of my things. So yeah, that's something that you need to be doing in terms of checking things. So yeah, and I think something about turnaround times as well. Try to apply as soon as possible and be organic. We want, like, generally they want to know what you bring to the table as well and what you're planning to do with it. So try to be as organic as possible. It seems like an intimidating process. It's not. Sorry.
That's great. And Paul, I've put some of those links in the chat box there as well to the different scholarship opportunities. But as Rabab says, you know, they're changing all the time. So do keep an eye on things. And in many cases, you know, a bit of hard work now can really pay off. And I know, you know, Rabab was saying she was on a scholarship. I've also benefited from scholarships in the past. So it, you know, if the funding, if the fees are an issue, I would strongly recommend putting some time in now to see how you might be able to apply for various different things, because there are opportunities out there, but they quite often take a bit of work at the beginning to avail of them. Okay. All right. Just in the interest of time, I think we've got 2 more questions. We've got Tara. Thank you for waiting patiently.
Thank you. My name is Tara. I'm from Jordan. I'm applying for the Development Studies MA. First off, thank you all. This has been incredibly helpful. My question is, are there any opportunities that are kind of built into the structure of the program to allow students to either like work or just have exposure to development-related organizations?
So there's how shall we answer this? So with your dissertation, there's an opportunity to engage there, and some people take that opportunity to work with an NGO or to, you know, partner with someone. You know, and some people travel for 2 or 3 months for that, whereas other people, they just don't do that. So some of that will come down to your own personal preference. There's also some opportunities through some of the more practical modules for people to engage with NGOs or organizations as part of their studies. Some people as well choose to, you know, apply for jobs or opportunities as and when they come up. The advice I tend to give master's students is, where you can, focus on your studies. You know, you've got your whole life to worry about work, but at the same time, sometimes opportunities come up, and it works well where people do a bit of work and then, you know, the majority of their study on the other days. But there's no kind of fixed structure around that. And I put in the chat box there earlier, but, you know, at IDS, we have a lot of people who are actually former students. And in some cases, they've gone on to be research assistants. And for some of our more senior staff, you know, they did their masters in the 1990s and they've come back and now they're lecturing at IDS. So I would say there's always opportunities, but there's no kind of formal structure around that side of the engagement. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything there.
You know, there's always research assistantships being opened, and that's something that if you are someone who's interested in, especially if you're planning to pursue academia like beyond your master's as well, it can be helpful. But again, it's the same. There will be emails sent out, but again, that's something that you have to be proactive with. And as a student, you get, if you're an international student, you're allowed 20 hours on your in term time. So you can use it to work. I know that a lot of students do it because they have to also, because they have to fund themselves. So they do end up taking, part-time jobs, but that can also mean I had a couple of classmates who were sort of doing part-time work remotely with the organizations that they had been working with before they had come to IDS. There were some people who had sort of done a bit of like part-time work with the organizations that they had been employed by at work, but had offices in the UK. So it truly depends on if you're able to secure an offer, but technically there isn't as such. And yes, one of the other ways that you can do it is, I did it through, it wasn't really work experience, but it was more of volunteering because it was something that was close to my heart. So my dissertation ended up becoming exploring that. And yeah, it sort of gave me a greater understanding of that issue itself. And so yeah, that's how I sort of see it.
I'll just like to jump in and sort of add that the alumni team at IDS is very proactive. So that's also a very good way for you to engage with the ecosystem and understand about what are the wider opportunities that are available. And alums of IDS are always sort of, a very much a part of the ecosystem. So they're very interactive and would be very much happy to answer any of your questions and sort of navigate what could be potential professional pathways also for you post IDS. So that's also a good resource to tap into.
Right, thank you. Okay, Yuki, can we call on you, please?
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry that because I'd like to ask about the practical experience. So she already asked that. So and I would like to ask the practical aspect. As there are some comments, I'd like to check the application. Is it need any reference, and is it okay to send personal statement more than 800? It may be 2 pages. Thank you.
Thanks, Yuki. I'm not 100% sure. I think maybe if you send an email again to the central team and someone will be able to advise you. My understanding was it's a 2-page personal statement. Yeah, so that's that bit. So in terms of the practical application, so was your question answered, or would you like to ask something else about the practical side of things?
Oh, well, yeah, well, it's okay. I'm just satisfied with the your answers. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. And Mai or me, sorry, apologies if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly.
Hi. Yes, I have a question regarding the dissertation that was raised just now. Since there's a dissertation and a research element in all the masters, which of the masters is closest in terms of rigor and requirement of the research project that would give it a good taste of a PhD if I want to go into a PhD later? Because this would be, if I were to take it on, it would be my 3rd master's, and but I'm not ready for a PhD yet. So I thought, if there is a particular master course that I can take that would give me a good taste of what a PhD experience would be like, would be kind of like a good halfway mark and stepping stone towards a PhD if when I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a straightforward answer to that because, while the Masters in Development Studies is the broadest course, so, but if you know already what you might do your PhD in, then, and if those align with one of the more specialist masters, then that might be the better route to go. So say, for example, if you really, really like gender studies, then the MA Gender Masters might be the better one to go to and then lead on to a PhD in gender. I always think if you work in development but you haven't developed a speciality yet, the MA development is probably the better one to go for, just because you'll get that broader experience. But I wouldn't say any one over another is going to put you in a better place for a PhD, because it will depend entirely on your own journey. and what your interests are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so some great questions. And, you know, for those of you who we weren't able to answer the question directly, you know, please do reach out to us on email the central team there, and hopefully they'll be able to advise. I'd just like to say a really big thank you to Rabab, Harshita and Majid. You know, I really appreciate the time you've taken in sharing your experience. And as Harshita said, you know, we have quite strong alumni at IDS. And so, you know, please do reach out to people who have studied here before. Hopefully they'll give you an honest answer. You know, but any questions that you've got outstanding, please do email us, get in touch. You know, we're a very approachable bunch, and hopefully we'll be able to come back and give you a response. So hopefully this has just given you a bit of a flavor. I've just seen a question there about the email or a link. So I think the best thing to do would probably be to go to our website, which I will share just now. And there should be an email on there that you can email. So if you go to, on the website, if you go to the tab around learning at IDS, bear with me, I will just find a contact. Okay. I will just put the section on our website, which has got the contact details on there as well. So please do get in touch. You know, an email is probably easiest, but there is also a phone number on there as well. Or reach out to us on social media if that's easier for you. And we'll do our best to get back to you and answer any questions that you may have. But hopefully we've been able to just give you a bit of a taste of what life at IDS might be like, and what you can expect. But I'd just like to thank again the colleagues, and thank you all as well for joining. You know, the hour's gone very, very quickly, but hopefully it was helpful for everyone. All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks, everyone.